In a recent discussion, a conversation came up about attitudes towards Caesar's assassination and the motivation of the conspirators. It is generally accepted that the senators were in such a position that they decided to kill the dictator out of desperation, trying to save the Republican ideals. Of course, today in the heads of the conspirators can no longer get into the heads of the conspirators, but I will try to explain why I believe that this point of view is deceitful, and Caesar was killed not out of any ideals. The Roman Republic, like any living political organism, was constantly changing and improving. By the 2nd century BC, the Republic had fully developed the institutions of government with the power of the nobles through the Senate, limited to tribunate commissions from the people. The army in this scheme was only one of the career elevators, but extremely effective. For a sufficiently rich or generic Roman, Rome was constantly attacking its neighbors, robbing them, and including them in its own empire. And so, being a sufficiently successful or cunning warrior, you could quickly earn money and fame, which in civil life converted into political power. The stability of the system was ensured by the constant competition of noble families, which made it impossible for one of the families or even a group of families to usurp power, as it would automatically lead to their ostracism and the active opposition of the majority of the nobility. A large number of clans of pretenders to power allowed to form a compromise in society. We do not violate the status quo, but you, being in power, will not try to change it, which of course was periodically done, but without success. Almost the entire history of the Republic was a struggle between two key ideas. The aristocracy should have power, or all citizens. At first it was a conflict between patricians and plebeians, which ended in the 3rd century with the merger of patricians and the most influential plebeian families into a new stratum, the nobility. Then, the allocation among the nobility of Optimates, supporters of preserving the current system, and populares, supporters of increasing the role of the plebs in the management of the state, the decision in favor of the plebs' agrarian issue. Due to the fact that the Optimates had dominance in the Senate and the populares in the People's Assembly, commissions, there was a balance when the post of consuls were people of different views, forced to come to a compromise. The Optimates were gradually losing. Even the inclusion of provincial clans in politics did not change the balance, with more and more people moving to the side of the populares, supporters of reform. And in 133, the Optimates had the opportunity to abandon the outdated status quo. People's tribune Tiberius Gracchus, in order to protect himself from prosecution for the agrarian law, which he bypassed the Senate through the commissions, decided to be re-elected for the 2nd time to the tribunes, which did not please the Optimates very much. They tried to disrupt the election, and when Tiberius called the people to his defense, a group of senators and their clients, accusing Tiberius of royal ambitions, beat the tribune and many of his supporters to death. Naturally, everything was done in defense of the Republic, just as in 121, when Tiberius's younger brother, Gaius Gracchus, also a tribune of the people, was also murdered by the Optimates for passing laws unfavorable to them. Such behavior would have been nonsense even 50 years ago, when an unwanted tribune would have been sued and his reputation would have been ruined, but the Optimates knew that their time was running out. Sooner or later, the populares, using the unconditional support of the plebs, would have been able to push the Optimates completely out of power. Prosecution would not have helped. It was necessary to show the populares a place to keep their heads down while covering themselves with the security of the Republic and traditions. The solution was ugly, unrepublican, but effective. Then, when just 20 years later the Optimates would lose the battle against the Semers and Teutons, they would have to hand over the reins of power to Mary, thanks to whom the populares were experiencing a new renaissance with a powerful leader. Had it not been for the Allied war that broke out in its wake, Marius would have been relegated to a dusty shelf, but he was still needed, and worse, he was popular. So, when the Optimatist camp got its young and talented leader Lucius Cornelius Sulla, they bet on him as the man who could make the populares afraid to stick their necks out again. And he did it 100%. Sulla made an innovation in world politics, legislated repression, systematized them, now killed on lists of undesirable, in the framework of a special but the law. The whole dictatorship of Sulla was a savory spit on the republican traditions of the past, but in the understanding of the Optimates, it was possible to save the republic only by breaking all those traditions that made it up. Paradox. Sulla achieved the stabilization of the internal situation by almost complete resignation of the populares. Last time, when the legions entered the city, the walls could be painted with blood is about sullen terror, and then returned the republic to the grateful senators. No, of course, the populares were not harmless either, and during the struggle between Maria and Sulla also got rid of the Optimates. But in terms of rampant terror before Sulla, Maria was as far as the moon. The Optimates will again blissfully enjoy the republican traditions, fight with barbarians, filling their pockets at the same time, but the vile populares will again come out of their holes, will again use the support of the plebs and commissions to carry out the necessary laws. Cicero, the greatest advocate of republicanism, hated tyranny and despotism, which he accused Caesar and Antony, and he himself hypocritically broke these traditions for the sake of saving the republic. When Rome uncovered the most inept plot in its history, the plot of Catiline, about which at a certain point knew almost the entire city, it was Cicero who insisted on an urgent decision to arrest the conspirators and their execution without trial, which was unthinkable from the point of view of the law, but fit well into the logic of the Optimates. Why? Not only because Catilina wanted to destroy all the senators, but also because he was popular. Other populares were also tried to be implicated in the conspiracy in order to send a signal, sit still and keep a low profile. But it could not last long. The creation of the first triumvirate of Caesar, a populist, Pompey, an optimist, and Crassus, a non-partisan adherent of the Golden Calf, although it allowed for a while to stabilize the situation through the mutually beneficial satisfaction of personal ambitions of the triumvirs, but could not help but lead to another aggravation. Caesar, as well as other populists, saw that the existing system of government of the Republic has long been inadequate for its size. It was necessary not only to expand the representation of the plebs, but also to expand the representation of the conquered territories. Caesar proposed to restructure the Republic for the sake of its own preservation, sharing power with other nobiles, but the Optimates could not agree to this, if they agreed, and would lose all the power that they had. Caesar's dictatorship was only a means to break the intransigence of the Optimates. Caesar did not go to mass repression. He tried to actually change the Republic peacefully. Using his immense popularity in the legions, Caesar could put all the enemies in Rome on the knife, and in the end, the knives ended up in himself. The Optimates were really desperate, because if Caesar had completed his reforms, they would not have been able to regain power, so it was urgent to kill him. So what if the Optimates did not have a strong leader? So what if Caesar himself was behind no less powerful group of genera populares? The Optimates did not kill him for the mythical ideals of the Republic, which they themselves had said goodbye to almost 100 years ago. No, they killed him for the sake of a dream of a mythical ideal state where aristocrats decide everything because they know better what the people need. The idea of a dictatorship to save the Republic from internal enemies was quite easy for the traditionalists, which is why when Caesar died, the populares were so impetuous. Mark Antony and Octavian were driven not only by personal ambition, but also by the desire to preempt the next round of drowning the populares in blood. And they preempted and then demolished the Republic as an obsolete construction, along with all the disputes between populares and Optimates. The emperor himself is both an Optimate and a populare. And you gentlemen sit still, or you will have to bring legions into the city again.